Hey, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us here at Legacy Locator Services. Today, we're going to be talking about navigating the pre-foreclosure process. Now, in this series of videos, we are striving to educate homeowners about the foreclosure process as a whole. If you're in foreclosure, um, then that means that you have already passed the pre-foreclosure um, step. And so you might want to look at some of the additional videos that we have on the foreclosure process. However, if you're in pre-foreclosure, which means that you are behind on your payments, but you haven't actually received a notice of default, then this is going to be the video for you. All right, so in this video, we're going to be educating and informing. And we want to throw out this disclaimer because we are not lawyers. We're not giving out legal advice. However, we do have a lot of great information that will help. So if you find yourself in a position where you are behind on your mortgage, you're not sure how you're going to get caught up, you might be feeling confused, you might be kind of afraid at this point. There are a whole range of emotions and that you might be feeling. And so when we're in an emotional state where we're feeling afraid or concerned or, just really confused and not sure what to do, sometimes we're really not in a good place when it comes to making decisions. So we want to arm you with information that will help you make the best decisions. And if you're open, we also want to provide you with affordable tools that you can use to get from point A to point B. All right, so that is going to be the kind of the overview or the reason for these videos. All right, so we're going to be looking at the pre-foreclosure stage, which is when you're behind 30, 60, or 90 and above days in paying your mortgage. If you have not received that notice of default, then this will be a good video for you to watch. So when you're behind on your mortgage, you don't want to wait until you receive a notice of default before you start asking questions. And a lot of times when people get behind on their mortgage, they kind of go into denial about, I'll get caught up later. Now, there are people who just for whatever reason, they forget to pay their mortgage, but they're perfectly capable of getting caught up and moving on. And this video is not really for that group of people either. This is really for people who know that they are struggling, that they are going to have a hard time coming up with their mortgage payment. So whether you're feeling that now and maybe you're still, 30 days behind or you missed a payment, and you just have this awful feeling that you're not going to be able to get caught up, then you definitely want to watch this because a lot of people make the mistake of avoiding this. They go into, as I said before, that denial stage that, everything's going to be okay. And that's great to be positive. You definitely want to stay as positive as possible, but you also don't want to be passive. You want to use this time so that you can get your questions answered and lose that confusion, lose that sense of not knowing what steps you're going to take, not knowing your plan B. Okay. So the thing that you want to do is you don't want to wait for that notice of a default, rather. You don't want to wait for that. And you want to make sure that you contact your lender, your servicer, as early as possible. And you want to get the facts in writing. So when you call someone, it's always important to make that initial contact. Reach out by phone, pick up the phone, call your lender, let them know that you are having, maybe a hardship, maybe something has happened in your life. And really, I guess before you make that phone call, you need to ask yourself a few questions like, why are you behind on your mortgage? And you need to be able to articulate that to your lender. And a lot of times, and I'm gonna pause this for a second because I want to give you some examples of reasons why people fall behind on their mortgage. So just one moment. Okay, so here are some reasons. Now, this is from one of our blog posts, but these are some of the common reasons that people find themselves in foreclosure due to a hardship. So if you have been experiencing something like an unexpected job loss or any kind of job loss, you may have a spouse that lost their job. That means a significant decrease in your household income. So someone, either a spouse or significant other in your household losing their job could have a direct impact on your ability to pay your mortgage. Maybe a medical emergency. There are also things like if you have an adjustable rate mortgage, you could have a rate increase due to the interest rate going up on your ARM loan. Rising property taxes and insurance costs, divorce, the death of a spouse or an income earner, natural disasters, and we're finding more people are experiencing natural disasters here in the United States, whether it's tornadoes, floods, or a combination. There are a lot more weather events going on right now, so that could be an issue. Predatory lending could also be a reason. You have these astronomical interest rates, and that really drives up the cost and your monthly payment. So it may be just as simple as maybe finding another lender that can lower that interest rate and make your payments more affordable. Uninsured property damage. So when you have some of these natural disasters or some unexpected event happens that affects your property, that can also lead to additional costs. And in turn, that can affect your ability to pay your mortgage. Permanent military change of duty station, that is also another reason. So think about why you are not able to make your mortgage payment and just kind of write that down. What are the contributing factors that are affecting your ability to pay your mortgage? Okay, so I'm going to pause one more time and go back to my presentation. I'll be right back with you. Okay, so as we said before, you don't want to wait to get a notice of default. You want to make sure that you have your the reason that you're not able to make your payments. You want to have that written down somewhere so that you can kind of explain that in a very brief way. You want to explain that maybe one or two sentences when you contact your lender, and you want to contact your lender as early as possible. And so that way you can find options. The earlier you contact your lender, the better you're going to be when it comes to options. So early intervention means more options. If you wait until you're 90 days past due, all hope is not lost, but then you may have fewer options. So if you're at the 30-day mark, or you feel that you're going to be late, something has happened like what we just discussed, and you're going to be late, go ahead and contact your lender because there may be other options available for you. All right, so then, instead of wondering what to say every time you contact your mortgage company or your lender, you want to start with the letters that we have put together for you. So we put together 7 letters that are going to help you get through this process. These are ready to use. All you have to do is enter your details, your information, like your name, your address, your loan number, And then you also want to have the address of your, um, and every bank and every situation is going to be different. And that's why when you make that first call to your lender, you want to make sure that you get the correct address so that you can send out written letters to follow up on those phone calls. Sending out written letters gets it in writing, and it documents the fact that you have reached out. When you do it by phone, sometimes things can get lost in translation. You can misunderstand what someone tells you. But when you have it in writing, that really spells out what your options are. So you don't have to wonder about what to say. You don't have to worry about whether you have asked the right questions. All that is covered in these ready to use letters, and they're going to help you to ask the right questions and request your options in writing. And it's also these letters, this pack that we put together is going to help you keep a record of every step. So pre-foreclosure is the first step in the legal process. And believe it or not, being 30 days behind in your mortgage begins that clock ticking, right? And so when you have missed payments, what ends up happening is that after you get so far, whether you're 30, 60, or 90 days or above behind in your mortgage payment, that is going to trigger a notice of default. And a notice of default is a recorded public document. Now, each bank, each municipality, each state has different requirements. And that's the reason we can't really give you a cookie cutter, one size fits all timeline. However, there are trends. When you look at from state to state throughout the country, there are certain trends that we can kind of make you aware of. So the thing that we want you to know at this point is if you have not received a notice of default, then you still have more options. And when you have not received that notice of default and you're 30, 60, 90, or 120 days past due, then that means you're still in the pre-foreclosure stage. And during that pre-foreclosure stage, the other thing that you need to be aware of is that you still retain full legal ownership. Now, once that foreclosure process is completed, let's say that you have a notice of default and maybe your lender has contacted the court and put your home on an auction schedule. If your home is on an auction schedule and that auction date passes and someone bids on your property, then at that point, the person who won the bid at auction on your property, that person or that company becomes the legal owner of that property. So then you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to be there. Once you have that notice of default, that puts you in a totally different category. Now, even if you've, got a notice of default, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the end of the road. But your options kind of shift at that point, and you have different things that you might be able to look at to, move forward. And so just know that while you're in pre-foreclosure, that means that you still own your home. And when you're in pre-foreclosure, you have a window of opportunity to take corrective action. So now this is where, again, these letters that we put together, these are going to be very inexpensive tools that you can use when you're behind on your mortgage. A lot of times when you're stressed out, when you're confused, when you're overwhelmed, you don't know what to say. When you pick up that phone and call your lender, you have no idea what to say. You may be intimidated by some of the things they may say to you. And so you just want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row. You understand your own situation. So you understand how much money you have to work with. You understand why you're behind on your mortgage. You understand the things that you need to ask your lender. You also understand the things that your lender can provide you with. And so you don't have to worry about what to say. And this establishes, when you have written letters that you're sending to your lender, this establishes a formal documented paper trail. So now this is what you're going to get when you get our letter pack. You're going to get a hardship letter. And again, that's where you're going to let your lender know in writing why you are behind in your mortgage. This is not a long drawn out letter. It really gives you the information that you need to provide in a very succinct way. And we also give you a list of documents that you can pull together to make filling in the blanks on this letter very easy. So all of these are pre-written letters, but you do have to fill in the blanks with your details. Okay, so you get a hardship letter, you get a loss mitigation and loan modification request letter, and that is going to help you to request any assistance or any options that might be available to you. So depending on the kind of loan that you have, whether you have an FHA or a VA or HUD or whatever program your mortgage qualifies for, your lender should be able to tell you if there are any assistance programs that can help you get out of, this situation and get you back on track. Now, I would recommend that you look at these options before you sign on the dotted line. So, for example, if you have a loan mitigation option available to you, then you might want to go online, and we also have articles on our blog about different things that you can do. If you're going to make a loan modification request, then you want to know everything that you need to know about loan modification so that you're making informed decisions. And that's why, again, you want to make sure that you're reaching out as early as possible so that you can have time to review any options that are available before you sign on the dotted line. So you want to know the pros and cons of any option or any assistance program that you might sign up for. We also give you a letter that helps you to request information. So if you are needing information, if you have questions about your loan, you're certainly entitled to ask those, and this letter will help you do that. If you are, let's say that you apply for assistance and you're turned down, you can appeal that denial. And so this letter will help you to do that. We also have follow-up letters. So let's say that you send letters to your lender and you don't hear back from them within a reasonable amount of time. Then you want to make sure that you're following up. And you want to follow up and you want to make sure that you are documenting the previous letters that you sent out. So that way it really kind of shows a pattern. If your lender is not responding, you want to be able to show a pattern that they are establishing by not following up with you or not providing you with the information that you might need. Now, here is another letter that you can use to request a reinstatement quote and a payoff statement. So these are two different things. Reinstating your loan, the amount to reinstate your loan is going to be different than the payoff amount. And so you want to make sure that you get both of these numbers. And these are things that you can also request by phone. But again, you want to follow up with a written request. That way you have it on paper from your lender. Now, the other thing that we provide you with are the timelines. So, when you submit, let's say your first letter, your hardship letter, and maybe your loss mitigation and loan modification request, you want to give your lender a timeline that is reasonable so that they can respond. We also give you email and mail versions of these letters. So that way you can respond by phone, you can respond by email, and you can respond by mail. Now, when we have, when we instruct you on how to send out your letters, we request or we recommend that you send those letters out with a certified return mail add-on. So in other words, you go to the post office and you let them know you want someone to sign for this before they get it. And then you also want to get that return. There's like a little green card that will come back to you, and you're going to take that and you're going to put it with your written documentation, all the letters you sent. And so that's where the correspondence log comes in. So when you call your lender, when you send them an email, when you send them your mail letters, you want to write all that on the correspondence log. When you call your lender, you want to write down the name of the person that you talk to. You want to make sure you write down the date and the outcome of that conversation. The same thing happens with email. When you email your lender, you want to make sure that you're printing out those, the responses that you're getting. And then you also want to make sure that you are keeping those copies and you keep them with the mailed in versions of the correspondence that you're sending them as well. So the thing that you want to do is maybe get a folder or a gigantic envelope and just put all your correspondence in that envelope, or even a file cabinet or whatever. But you want to keep track of all of the conversations and all of the emails and written hard copy mail correspondence that you're sending. So this is everything that you're going to get. And then this is going to set you up. It's going to arm you with information, number one, because when you look at that hardship letter, that's going to help you to really think about and really, put together the reason for your missed payments. The other thing that it's going to do is it will give you a script that you can use when you call your lender. So these are going to be templates that you can download. Once you download them, when you go to our shop or our resource center and you purchase these, they're going to immediately be ready for you to download. And then all you have to do is fill in the blanks, print them out, make a copy for yourself. And really, I would keep the originals and then send your lender the copies. But anyway, you want to maintain a copy for yourself. And then you want to go ahead and proceed to, mail out your letters using the timelines that we have established here. All right. And so this is something that takes all of the worry, all of the legwork. You're not having to sit and look at a blank screen. All of this is going to be done for you. And all you have to do is take a little bit of time to fill in the blanks, put them in the mail, and then see what happens. So the big question for you is, what are your options? And these are the questions that you should be asking as soon as you are aware that you are going to be behind. And what this does is when you have written documentation, when you're getting on the phone and you're being proactive, then that's going to stop your lender from making these aggressive and really harsh collection calls. You're going to be proactive. You're going to get ahead of the collection calls by facing your lender and just letting them know, I'm having a hardship, and being able to articulate that hardship in writing, on the phone, getting names of the people that you're talking to, writing down the dates, all that is going to add up. Now, there may come a time if your lender, let's say that your lender is not responsive and they are not getting back to you in a timely manner. You can see a HUD counselor. There are people who kind of specialize in this, even scheduling a no obligation phone call with us. And then we can kind of lead you in the direction of maybe next steps. we have a number of resources that we can refer you to. So, having things in writing and really following a timeline and giving your lender an opportunity to follow up with you, that is going to work in your favor. All right. So, early communication provides options to receive assistance that helps you to avoid foreclosure. So the thing that I would recommend is that you download the Mortgage Relief Action Letter Pack, customize it with your details, print it, keep copies of all your originals, and then mail the copies. Keep your originals, mail the copies to your lender. And you want to make sure that you're sending them via certified mail with return receipt. And when you go to the post office, the people at the post office are going to know exactly what you're talking about. Just go to the counter and let them know you want to send a certified letter with a return receipt, and they can get you all hooked up. Okay. All right. So this is also where you can start getting answers. So you can purchase the letter pack, or if you think that, you can put together those letters on your own, you can certainly do that as well. And then you can also check out our blog post on avoiding foreclosure, a step-by-step guide. And you can find that information here at legacylocatorservices.com/foreclosure. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this has been helpful and educational. Again, we're not providing you with legal advice, but we are giving you some tips on things that you can do to be proactive, to work with your lender to get your situation back on track. All right. Thanks again. And I will see you in the next video. If you receive value from this, please like and subscribe. The other thing that you might think about is if you know someone who is facing financial struggles right now, you may want to share this video with them as well. All right. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on the next video.